Oh, it's pretty windy. I don't know if I'll speak loud. I don't know if the wind will be heard. Today is Earth Day, so I'm trying to get some ecocentric medicine, especially a day like today where there's been a lot of triggers of my species alienation as I've interacted with people that suffer from HSD, a variety of human domestication syndromes, and they don't really want to talk about it, much less work on mitigation about it. So, but you know what's really upsetting about Earth Day is you're going to see right there, right? Earth Day, we're getting this, right? Their website might say that here's all the sustainable practices that we do, except that if you look at, environmental groups who will measure the data, right? If you go by data and not the sales pitch, it's an incredibly harsh environmental industry, cruise ships. So it's already sad. It's already sad that I had to do a lot of different problem solving for the people they get paid. I had to train them really indirectly. So I'll talk to you about it as a self-counseling session, because I can't rely on people that suffer from HSD to understand what it feels like to suffer from species alienation because of their unwell nature. So first thing I did was I went to the doctor's office before they closed. And, it's a small town. My landlord was there, and there's a lady I played badminton with, and even have a police officer go next to me, tall young man. There's no such thing as privacy that medical offices understand or government offices understand. When you have somebody right next to you and you're kind of confirming your date of birth, I'm not talking about the RCMP officer, but talking about what test I did. There's something wrong with people not understanding this. At the same time, they say, "Oh, I'm not comfortable." Oh no, we totally respect privacy. As you won't see the next time you go the office layout change or the staff trained in actually putting it in practice, not just passing a simple multiple choice thing that doesn't even have a layout of their office in it that says this layout suitable for privacy is this conversation during this layout with somebody there, because then they'd say no, and then they didn't come back to the office and change it. Anyways, the lady's asking me, is that the doctor that asked for you to do the form for releasing the information from the last few doctors at the virtual clinic? I said, no, she didn't think about it. I did, so it's important to have me on my medical team. You know what I'm saying? And the other thing is I asked for the requisition form she sent out to make sure that nothing's missing when I do eventually am able to get back on healthy life, because I told her I wasn't able to the last 3 times. She said, I believe you, Martin, because you're a lot more thorough. And my landlord overheard that. So they're starting to know me there. I don't threaten people with saying, I live my transparent life as a way to give myself therapy for living among you. It's a good way to say this is who I became when I grew up, and this is who suffers from HSD that I encounter every day. So I had to ask a lot of questions about things, and then I go to pharmacy. My medicine's not ready, and then I'm thinking because they won't. It's either they sell the blood pressure machine or you come there. So it's not a problem solved for the patient, right? So they did say, if you're this age, you can qualify for that, and the day is tomorrow. And I said, if I buy it tomorrow, they won't reimburse me. I'm going to go to the ministry first, and I don't know how long it'll take. They do have my phone number. I'll talk about that after here. As part of my medicine in interacting with you, as I'll talk about my visit there as well. And so the doctor's office is... I said, I also want a copy of everything. Like, I'll want a copy of whatever she gets from the virtual clinic. And they say they would charge $2.25 for the copies per page. I said, well, you could email it to me, but they want me to do the storage device. So that means I have to trust them or either get a new one every time or transfer it in. And they're not worried about viruses, but they won't email, because it means scanning first. Except if they get it from virtual clinic, it'll probably be electronic already. So there's a lot of inability to deviate from the norm to problem solve, and the way they normally do it is often more work and problematic, but they won't deviate to do it in a simpler way when somebody else suggests this. Here's an example. At the pharmacy, I say, well, can you give me a copy from your website? And I said, well, she came back, she was trying to get out of doing it almost. She doesn't know that it's intellectual laziness that affects people. But I say, is your internet down? Okay, and is your website for shoppers down? Then you should be able to print the price of that item you're selling here from the internet. And when she printed it, because the image kind of got into the price in the formatting of it, she could see it online, but not the printing. And then you try not to insult. Say, I don't know what your computer experience is, but that if you could see it online, is you could just do a screenshot of just that first page and print the screenshot, which she did. But in the meantime, she keeps coming to me when I'm sitting, and one of the times I wanted to read what it said on the boxes. One is more expensive because it has 3 extra features I don't need. The other one does it, so I don't have to go for the more expensive one. But I might still buy it tomorrow because I still don't trust the ministry. Now I go to the ministry office, which I try to avoid, and I end up with, let's just call her the lady on the right, okay? And she's been working there more than a year, I'm sure. Except the things that a normal staff would get trained on in a couple of weeks or a month, they nailed it probably, right? And I've applied to work for that ministry, but they don't want me to get out of poverty by working there and seeing, a thinking person as one of their peers, right? They'd give complaints to the union. This guy's making us feel bad because he's a great problem solver and he's great with the customers and he's thorough and he's learning quick and he's supportive, and we just and everybody wants to deal with him and not with us, so we're going to complain to the BCGU. Anyway, so this lady, at one point, she says, oh, I'm afraid to get it wrong, because I have to call her on this. I said, I'm not saying every staff does it, but I've noticed that you, because I got her a bunch of times, is you recommend people call the 800 number. It's like you don't want to do your job or you don't want to learn your job. And at one point she says, I don't want to get it wrong. And that's when I kind of, before I said the pattern of her giving out the 800 number, because, you show up there for something she should be trained to do. And you got to wonder, how does a provincial ministry hire a person that is not trained after years to do? And again, it's like, how does the union support this, and how does the government support this when there's probably some sort of nepotism locally involved? So how is it locally involved, the nepotism, when it's a provincial ministry? And she was the only one open. And I said, well, can you check with your other staff? Oh, they're working on things they're not supposed to. Customers that come in. Well, she shouldn't work with customers that come in. She should work with people in the back, except that it'll be the same issue. Now, the issues with her is a lot related to attention, but they're solvable. And the reason they haven't been solved is her attitude. And the reason that hasn't been solved is others, as her peers, support her attitude. And then, it takes somebody like me to help train her while I'm there, but also use other skills I have not to trigger her and get them to ban me, right? So she eventually did it. She eventually might not have put in the right category, but at least she flagged it for a supervisor, the SR number, and she also confirmed that my phone number is the new one, so a supervisor might call. But I did kind of really want her to take some sort of copy of the medicine I'm on, that I'm not just asking to reimburse the machine, because a lot of people could just sell that later, right, if they don't really prove they need it by, for example, this new medicine they're on that requires, to be tested. So she didn't do that, but she did kind of make an effort to double check with one person quickly. But the first time I'm there, I said, take your time to get it right, I'm going to wait. And I see somebody coming that she's not asking for help to do my case. They're looking at pictures together of family or relatives or whatever while I'm waiting. I was there so long while another teller space open and people were getting served much better. So again, if I go there again at one point and I say, respectfully, I'd like to wait for another staff, and they'll say I'm the only one. Well, can you tell me when the others are coming back from break or when the others are working on a different day? Because really, I have the right not to be triggered. I was telling her, I get triggered and then I don't want to use your offices, and it's not just here, many places. And then I miss out on services and reimbursements I'm supposed to get. And I talked about that time I dropped things off in the mail in their box, and they said they check it frequently, and you gave it too late. I didn't give it too late. I came before, and even the social worker at hospital came. That means you had already enough confirmation of what I needed to be reimbursed for, and you didn't do it. So again, it's poverty creation. It's the Ministry of Poverty Creation, who are untrained and supported to remain thus by the BCGU. It's so easy to prove. I could lose all my data again. All I have to do is interact with the species I share DNA with again and show these are the patterns. Now, today is the only day, I tell people, of the year that has a holiday worth celebrating. You know, even more than my birthday, which is just something I want to do for myself. I don't want it celebrated. And this is what I have to do. I got to get triggered by species alienation. I have to train people on how to do things that are getting paid. I have more of my time taken away from me, stolen as poverty increases because I have too many skill sets. Now, I did go to change makers after. By the way, the police officer, I was teasing him on the way out. He said, "You should wear shorter shoes. You're too tall." And then I was telling him, because when I noticed he's right beside me, and I'm talking to the lady, then I said, "What, I have to get the information that way? That's what the RCMP did to me. They said I have to go through, access the information." And I said, "It's going to take a long time." I said, "No, it's pretty easy." "All right, well, no, it's not easy. You just said it has to be done exactly this way." Anyway, so the police officer, I mentioned that right next to him. I said, "You're going to do like them, and all I'm asking is a copy of your notes when his supervisor met me." So I talked to him outside, the police officer, and I said, "Tell Mark that you met me, and I'm seeing people from the cruise ship riding their bicycles." And in one of my vlogs, I mentioned how a city staff on the radio said the streets are clean, but there's so much gravel that they can see their travel everywhere, right, including at hills, that make it more slippery for more days than when there was snow and ice. Okay, and I said that argument, and I said, tell Mark you said hi. And the reason Mark is the inspector of the RCMP detachment here will continue to avoid me is a question of who's the responsible adult, who lives a transparent life, who's comfortable with the concept of accountability. Do you think if somebody's highly ranked in the RCMP that they deserve the title of Captain of Accountability more than I do? Who lives a transparent life and walks the talk of accountability in his own life and expects it from others? So of course, if people say, "You're not a captain," it's just a title I give myself because it matches my confidence when it comes to this concept. And the title I give myself, Doctor of Humanics, it's because I am a specialist in the human condition, and I challenge anybody to a public debate on that topic, and we will get to the difference of what is fictional and non-fictional in their cognitive dissonance about it.